Okay, everybody, the recording is started. It's a family show. Okay, ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we needed. Yes. Okay. This week's parsha, the Torah portion, is called Vayetza, and it's the Jew on the run. This is all of us in our history. This is Jacob running away from Esau, his twin brother, nemesis, Christian Europe, in a sense, the Jew running away, and he has some money on him. He's met by Eliphaz, which is the oldest son of Esau, and he says, "I'm going to, kill you." And he had him dead, and so Jacob says, "Hey, isn't it true that if a man without money is as if he's dead?" And Eliphaz says, "Yes, that is true." He goes, "So take my money." So Eliphaz took Jacob's money, and that sufficed Eliphaz, and he let Jacob go. And Jacob ran away, and he ran to the tents of Shem and Ever. Shem was the son of Noach, who still was around. Aver, I believe, was his grandson. And they taught Torah. They taught Torah of how to live out in the exile. That was the specialty of their Torah. Jacob learned for 14 years with them, because he was thought to live with Lavan. We'll get to that in a minute. And he never slept. He did cat naps, but he never slept in a bed for 14 years. And that was very great for his growth. Anyways, on his way to see Lavan, and on this journey, he encounters the Temple Mount, the same place where Abraham attempted to sacrifice Isaac, the same place, they say, where some of the dirt was taken for the first man. We have in our DNA that kind of dirt in our body. It's a place, they say, where Noah built an altar to God. It's a very famous place in the Jewish world, in world history. Jacob goes to sleep there for the first time in 14 years. He lays down, and it's interesting. He puts stones around his head so scorpions won't bite him. He puts 12 stones around his head. And he goes to sleep, and he has a dream. In his dream, he sees angels going up and coming down. And he sees God over him. Whatever it means that you see God. And he realizes, and God speaks to him and says, "Don't be afraid. I will be with you. I will return you to your land." And this is Jacob's dream, the famous dream. And Jacob realized, "Oh my gosh, I'm on the Temple Mount. This is the door. This is the door, the gate to the heavens." That's where the temple. That's why we pray at the Kotel. The Kotel is in proximity to that place on top of the mountain. It's basically where the Dome of the Rock is, roughly. That's where he slept. And so he gets up in the morning, and and it says he pours oil on the stone that he was sleeping on. Well, it wasn't he was sleeping on a stone. He had 12 stones around his head. The stones had merged into one overnight. They wanted to all be connected to Jacob. And Jacob makes a vow, and he says, "If God will be with me and will guard me on this way where I'm going, and gives me bread to eat and clothes to wear, not asking too much, and returns me to my father's house, and God be with me, then the stone that I've set as a pillar shall be a house of God, and whatever you give me, I shall give 10% back to you." So that's what we first learn out. That's Abraham gave a tenth. Now we see that Jacob gives a tenth of anything that he makes. It's very important. That's where tithing comes in. That whatever I get, even if it's 10 cents for babysitting for an hour, I'll give a penny back, the 10%. That was from our forefathers. You have to have that in you, and that's just part of being a Jew, is giving back. And we see that you see it here. Now, Jacob heads off, and he goes to the well. He goes to the town where he knows Lavan lives. Lavan is his mother's brother. It's his uncle, and he finds men sitting around a big well, and they can't until all the shepherds are together. They can't lift the rock over the well because the rock's too heavy. And then they water their sheep, and they put the rock back on the well. Why do they do that? Because no one trusts anybody in that area. So we all have to be together. Now we're enough of us to move the rock off the well. We can water our sheep. We'll put the rock on the well. That way we know no one's sneaking water otherwise. Great society to move into, huh? And anyways, Rachel comes, and Jacob sees Rachel, for the first time. And what does he do? He lifts the rock himself. What took shepherds to do, he does it himself, and he moves it off, and she drinks, and he waters her sheep. And he goes up to her, and he kisses her. He kisses her. Doesn't even know who she is. He kisses her. And he prophetically that he would not be buried with her. And he cries. And he sees, because she died at age 36 after having two of his sons, and that's why we go to Rachel's tomb to this day. So he sees that instead he's going to be buried with Leah, her sister, and not with her, because he's going to marry her sister also. So Rachel says, I met this guy, Lavan's so excited, another person from his family, because he knows they have money. He goes out. He even kisses Jacob in the mouth. He thinks, where's this jewels? And he realizes the guy's broke. And he takes him in anyways. Lavan, they said Lavan means white. The only thing white about Lavan, they say, was his teeth. The guy was a shyster. He was a used car salesman. Nothing against used car salesman, but Lavan wasn't he was a crooked guy. So Jacob says the famous, I'll work 7 years, for Rachel, and Lavan accepts the deal. The night of the wedding, Lavan switches out Leah and for Rachel, so I guess she got married with a veil over her head. He didn't see who he was marrying. We always have to see who we're marrying, by the way. Nowadays, you always take the veil off and see your wife's face before she goes into the chuppah. Maybe it'll be her sister, and then and Rachel knew this was coming. She was the younger sister, and so they had signs. She goes, my father is pretty sneaky. Let's have signs. So she had signs with Jacob, and then she realized her sister's going to be completely embarrassed because Jacob would know it's not her under the chuppah, and Jacob, she gives Leah, here, take the secret signs that I have with Jacob under the chuppah. And she gave up her life. She gave up her life to her sister. Take the husband. Who could do such a thing? That's who Rachel was. She gave up everything.
Aryeh.
Yeah.
Question. Okay, we're into the mission 10 minutes, and you're telling a story that, with all due respect, we all could read. What I want to know is...
Further. Yeah.
Okay, you know what I want to know. I want some meat on these bones.
Okay, got it. Let's go further. So by the way, that's why you go to Rachel's tomb, and she of everybody, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, or Leah, the one who's listened to the most, God listens to Rachel because she was willing to give up everything to not embarrass her sister and for the Jewish people. That's why we go to Rachel's tomb. So if you really need something, it could even be stronger than going to the Western Wall. Now they're going to have all these children. It's time to have children. So he works another 7 years, and he gets Rachel. They're going to have the 12 tribes, and you're going to see that Rachel and Leah are going. They want to be the matriarchs, not out of ego, but they want to be it out of spiritual accomplishment. So they compete spiritually with each other having children. In the end, they're going to have 12 children, and so the story goes through them naming, having children.
I missed something. I missed something. He marries Leah, and he has children with her, right?
He marries Rachel a week later, so they're only a week apart from marriage. But he works another 7 years while he's married to both of them. And
so in other words, at that point, he could have 2 wives.
Yes, why? Because he's outside. Yeah, even bigger. He could have 2 sisters. You can't marry 2 sisters, but since he's not in the land of Israel, he can marry 2 sisters. And when he goes back into the land of Israel, one sister dies. Who's that? Rachel. Rachel dies because you can't marry 2 sisters. Outside the land
of Israel. So what's the point of all this?
Of what?
I want to know what the point of the story is.
The point,
like I said, we could read this, but we have 5 minutes. I want to understand the meaning behind this, what we are to learn from this.
Because Rachel was the potential, but Leah was the one who got it done. So we're going to see that Rachel's children is going to be Joseph. Joseph is the potential of the Jewish people. But Leah's children became the king and the Kohen and the high priest. They're the ones who are getting the job done. So the 2 sisters were 2 ways of the Jewish people. You have great potential, but you also need people to get the job done. So Rachel was always the preparation for the greatness. That's why when we read the story of Joseph, he's preparing the Jews for greatness. He's saving them in Egypt. But in the end of the day, Judah, is going to be the king. He's going to usurp Joseph. So we have 2 messiahs. We have the Messiah of Joseph, and he will precede the Messiah of King David. So you have this dualistic, I'm going to go into it next week more, as we get into Hanukkah, get close to Hanukkah, but you have a duality in the Jewish people. You have the potential and the beauty, and then you have the hardcore doing and more of a strict adherence to things. This is just the foundation. Now, so that's and there's also 2 more. There's the 2 maidservants who also became wives. I'm not even going to get into that. It's complicated. They were concubines. They were daughters of concubines from Lavan, and they also became matriarchs. How they did that, I still to this day, I've read about it. I still don't get it. So, but they had 4 children between the 2 maidservants, and they're great tribes. All the tribes are great. So this is the foundation of the Jewish people. But then Jacob had to increase his wealth, so he did. He had to do it in an honest way. So he took the sheep of Lavan, and he took only the purebred ones. And if anything was speckled or spotted, he got to keep those. Well, how do you make speckled and spotted if you only have purebred animals? So he was able to do that through manipulating DNA. It's a very deep level. We're not going to go into it, but he was able to peel bark off of trees and have the animals look at it. He was able to start breeding spotted sheep and goats, and then put them in front of the purebred ones. And it shows you something very important. This is very something when we make our children, and this is something you should pass down to your grandchildren and children. When they're making babies, what you think about is going to affect the child. Is going to affect the child being born, and we learned that out from how Jacob was what he was doing to get pure colored animals to give birth that were purebred, right? That were getting speckled, spotted animals afterwards, which was a DNA impossibility. because it's what you are thinking and what your environment is has a big effect on what kind of children that you're having. And then we see that Jacob runs for it, and he runs and he grabs the flocks and his family, and he runs away from Lavan. But you can't run away from Lavan. You can't run away from a crooked person. You have to make a deal with him. So he made a deal, and his deal was they built a mound of rocks, and they said, you cannot trespass this this mound of rocks to do evil, and God will watch us. And then Lavan, at the last minute, they're making this deal, and Jacob's going to leave. He's going to go back to Israel. This is 20 years now, 14 years. He worked 7 years for Leah. He worked the first 7 years for Rachel, got ripped off. He worked another 7 years for Rachel, and then he worked 6 years making all these sheep. That's 20 years. He's headed back to Isaac. He makes the deal with Lavan. On the way out, Lavan tries to say, let's swear by the God of Nahor and the God of Abraham. And Jacob says, no, God of Nahor is my great-grandfather. It's where they were connected. I guess they were it's where they were connected genealogically. He says, no, I'm going to swear by the God of my father Isaac. I am not you. I separate myself from you, Lavan. I am not part of your family. I'm making that break. And he was able then to leave Lavan, and he left, and Lavan was once a rich man because he had the blessings of Jacob, but Jacob left him, and Lavan went back to his meager life. And what you see from that is there are people that come into your lives that bring you blessing. You got to treat them well, because maybe it's not you that's making the blessing in your life. Maybe it's the people around you, and you got to and be very careful how we treat people. And Lavan did not treat Jacob good. Jacob made Lavan very rich, and when Jacob left, Lavan was poor again. And then Jacob goes back, and the angels that he saw going up and down on the ladder, he greeted him as he entered again into the land of Israel. So he's got 12 kids, he's got 4 wives, he's got a load of sheep, he's really wealthy, he's coming back into the land of Israel. It looks really good for him, except he's got to do one thing. He's got to re-encounter Esau, and that's the Jews. We do it down. This is the last thing I'll leave you with. We're going to see how Jews down through the ages learn how to negotiate with our host, who in the people in our host countries, and how we learn a 3-way negotiation, how to deal with any danger that's facing us. But that's for next week. Okay.
Thank you.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Shabbos.